I want to welcome you back to Trainworld City. It's the 14th of September. What you're looking at here is the Trainworld City Steelworks set up in its entirety. Don't have all the figures and stuff out. I apologize for my shadow kind of wandering in and out. This video is actually set up specifically for my fellow steel mill modelers. This is HO scale. It is outdoors. It is static, so it doesn't. There's nothing operating. There's nothing moving. You just simply set it up. You shoot it. You move it if you want to, and that's all I can do. And unfortunately, that is all I can do. We had a house across the street, literally a couple hundred feet from where we're standing, and because of some health problems with my wife, we ended up selling the house and moved over here. And I had all the railroad equipment and buildings and stuff, and I said, well, the only place with no basement, the only place I could put this was outside, so I opted for a non-functioning railroad. But with that comes this steel mill, which I was working on. This is a model, a fairly accurate model. It's not perfect, but a fairly accurate model of the U.S. Steel Duluth Works, which closed approximately, depending on what figure you want to get, between 1972 and 1987. It was an integrated mill. It was, in a lot of ways, one of the more marginal integrated mills that U.S. Steel operated. But it was so expensive to build that U.S. Steel almost had to operate it anyways, almost all the way to the very end. This rail yard, which is known as Railton Yard over here, in the city of Trainworld City behind it, feeds this steel mill. As a matter of fact, it feeds also the byproduct cement plant, which is sitting over here in the corner to the right. And it's fed by several different railroads. Some are fictional, some are semi-historic. The DWP actually never really fed the Duluth Works, but this is known as the Trainworld City Steelworks, so it's go along this big empty area here next to the blast furnace, which I've been trying to work on for I don't know how long. Should have the stoves and stuff with it. I still have not built that. It's a scratch-built blast furnace based on the mill at Duluth. And next to it, to the right, kind of where the rail is bending, is where the Walther's blast furnace is, which is going to be based on what they call the Joliet blast furnace. And that will be, I hope to actually complete that at some point. So this blast furnace is actually scratch built. I'm still working on it. It looks very kind of rickety right now. It's got a milk jug, 1 quart milk jug in the middle for the stack, and that's what I based it off of. And then the skip hoist, which is horribly wrongly inclined. These things will all be modified eventually and then evened out. I hope to get rid of these 2 PVC pipes for my coke mill. I've been longing to get two smokestacks that match and put that together, and I just never got to it yet. So the backstory behind the mill right now, at least in this season, which is 1953 on Trainworld, is that most of the hot stuff is shut down right now as Trainworld City Steelworks undergoes some modifications and modernizing. And that buys me some time to modify some things and get some things working right. Obviously, the coke pusher machine can't go past the conveyor. There's some measurements and stuff that I have to take care of, which is why I envy you guys that have a layout in your basement or another room. Is you can put precise measurements and stick with it. I have to do this every time I set this up. I have to kind of rule of thumb it and take it into account. The open hearth building has been a royal pain in my butt because the roof will not align, the smokestacks are a bit out of alignment, so I have nuts just sitting on the stacks to keep the smokestacks from falling over when the wind hits. It's another thing that most people don't have to deal with in the basement layout. And it is a huge model. So every time I take it out here, it's a pain in the butt to try to put out here. That whole wall on the side you're seeing right now is loose, and it's meant to be loose so that I can put an attachment on it so I can take it off and you can see the inside, and that's the reason why the roof is also not attached, but I still haven't figured out how I'm going to align it and get it all done. These 3 bridge cranes were assembled to be part of semi-historical of the Duluth plant. The Duluth mill never had any ore dock. Surprisingly, being in Duluth, you'd think you'd have a ship slip that you could bring in and take in raw materials, especially coal and limestone, which the Duluth mill needed. It didn't need the iron ore. And there were plans to have that done, but it never transpired. So the Trainworld City Steelworks actually has this slip and has this at the materials yard, which this will be modified. It will be more more permanent. It'll be concrete, and it'll have a high line in the type of slots and stuff that the ore and stuff will shoot down into. Originally, what would have sat here if this was Duluth would have been the wire mill and some of the machine shops. Because of space constraints, I've decided to make the materials yard here and put the ore boat here. So that is the reason why that is there. The ore cars and train fleet you see, it looks very much like the Mesabi Railroad, and some of it is, the cabooses are, and some of the ore cars are, but it's actually called the TCR. It's the Trainworld Chippewa Range Railroad, and it is a play on the Mesabi Range. But it was done just to have something different. I apologize as I slide on by here. These 2 GP8 or GP38 units down here of the Santa Fe, they'll become part of the TCR too. They were acquired today. They came in the mail today. The black cars of the coal cars are from the Mahina Coal and Chemical Company. It's a fictional subsidiary of USTS, which is United States Trainworld Steel, which is obviously a play on US Steel. It's just a subsidiary. They haul in lime, they haul in coal, and things like that. Eventually, these rolling mills, they're empty right now. These are just empty buildings. They will all be modified at some point, so the roofs can be removable or the walls can be removable, and you will see the inside workings of this as a continuous rolling mill, starting with the soaking pits to the right, the blooming mill. It's 2 buildings at center. The hotbeds are the 3 in the middle, and such. So hopefully we can get to that at some point. But more on that later, gang. So right now I'm just going to sign off.